Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This week's show, we're talking about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about The Wheel of Time, Season 2, Episode 2. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with Rand's circumstances. We're kind of seeing that he's obviously kind of living a pretty quiet life, and we can only assume he's trying to avoid channeling as much as possible because it's like, yeah, the more I channel, the more crazy I get, and more likely I will end up, losing myself in all of it, may end up hurting the people I love, and that's why he's trying to distance himself, not even try and think about them. And so that's where Celine comes in, which the actress who plays Celine, her name's Natasha O'Keefe. I looked at her IMDb and I saw that she was in Misfits. I was like, who are you in Misfits? And then I saw a picture of her in something else and I was like, wait, did you have red hair in Misfits? And it's like, yeah, she's totally the character I was thinking of. I forgot her character's name because it's been so long since I've seen Misfits, but I remember her character's circumstances. She was in series 4 and 5. But either way, tangents and all that aside, that is kind of an interesting circumstance that they have because Rand is trying to not get too close to people. It is that thing of him and Celine kind of have their relationship, but it's more of like a sexual thing, but because it wants to drown out everything with Egwene because it's just, right, this is the person I have these strong feelings for, but I have to bury those because that's more of a hindrance to her than anything right now because I have to forget about her, whereas Celine's trying to remember the love that broke her heart. It's like, yeah, when he left, he shattered my heart, but being able to kind of pretend with you allows me to feel like I'm whole again, whereas he's trying to forget Egwene once again for his sake, for her, but also for her sake because I can't. I'm too dangerous right now, and no matter how much he tries to not be, it's like, yeah, what I am is what I am, and I can't change that, and I'm a danger to everyone. So he has nightmares, once again, not just about killing Egwene, it's about killing Perrin, about killing Matt, about killing Nynaeve, so. And when we see that he's surrounding himself at this, like, what seems like kind of a mental ward, I was like, are you doing that on purpose? Because at first I was like, wait, are all these people here what I think they are? Because at first I was like, maybe they're not. But then, we find out by the end of the episode, like, oh no, it's exactly what I thought. These are all men who have channeled and gone crazy. The Aes Sedai, I think, well, either their circumstances, no, because I think all these other men have like trauma, whether it's like PTSD from being warriors or whatever, and just being at war, or just their minds have gone. And I'm jumping ahead, but the low gain of it all, it's like, he's just a special case because I guess the Aes Sedai like either paid for that because I was like, didn't they lock him in like a special tower? Well, didn't they lock him up after they stripped him of like his connection to the power? Like once they severed that connection, didn't they lock him up? But I actually don't remember what they did with him, or did they just let him go after? It's like once, because you're no longer a threat, you can no longer tap into the power. Once that connection is completely severed, there's no undoing it. So it's like, yeah, you're no longer a threat. You're just kind of a man who tasted that power, who lost his mind, and now that lost sanity is where you're at right now. So they're saying like, oh, someone paid for like, because he's a special patient there. So either the Aes Sedai set that up to kind of have him locked up there permanently, or maybe that is a family situation. Because we didn't really cover his family circumstances last season, did we? I don't remember. So not unless he was returned to his family and they like send him there to. So that's why I'm wondering, like, he might be one of those special cases of like, hey, I was put here for either the Aes Sedai or maybe my family's paying for me to be here. Because it's like, oh, people from well-off families get special treatment here. Like I said, I think everyone else here, because it seemed like most of the patients seemed to be men. That's why I was like, but that could also play into, well, there were warriors on a battlefield and, it just took its toll on. Like the guy that Rand is getting close to, Errol. Obviously he recognizes Rand as an IL and kind of talks about them being, the ferocious warriors they were on the battlefield. It's like, yeah, but the last war with them was like 20 years ago. Lots changed. The guy's mind is slipping. So I guess Rand kind of goes through this cycle with him like every day. It's like, right, we start fresh, but we always manage, essentially. And that guy, Yan, started causing issues, and he was kind of messing with the old guy just because he could, because it was a complete another D-bag. It's just like, right, we're supposed to be kind of looking after the patients here, but he felt like this guy was an easy target. So I thought Rand was going after him. I was like, right, were you going after him just for Errol's sake? But it's like, no, you had your own reasons. You wanted to remove Yan from the situation because you saw him as like, right, you're the person I need to remove because I need to get to Logain. Because if anyone's going to understand my circumstances, I can't talk to anyone else but you, who's kind of going through this, a man who's channeled and now being on the other side of it. I mean, it's not like he can really... Because it's so interesting, because Rand's circumstances are exactly like Logain's in regards of like, right, I might be the dragon, and he was a false dragon, but they talk about it elsewhere in the episode with the Moraine of it all, of like, yeah, given the opportunity, the tower and all the Aes Sedai would, like 99% of them would lock him up and clip his wings. Obviously, you would have your people dissenting against that, like a Nynaeve and Egwene and Moraine. And I would think Alana would. I don't know. I feel like Leandrin could easily lean the way of like, no, let's clip his wings type of situation. But either way, we'll get to that soon enough. So it's like, right, I want to talk to you. Because I was like, they never interacted last season at all. Because the person he crossed paths with was like Moraine and them. Because Moraine and Nynaeve have crossed paths with him. Moraine, Lan, and Nynaeve, as well as like the other Aes Sedai across paths, but like none of our other characters like Egwene. No, she wasn't. Was she there, or was she with the others? Because I remember like everyone got like no, because like everyone got separated. So wasn't it Matt was with Rand and Perrin was with Egwene, if I remember correctly. But either way, this is their first time meeting. So it's that is going to be interesting. And I wonder, even though he's cut off from the like being able to channel, if he's cut off from the source, I wonder, can he feel it from Rand? Because Rand tried to be like, oh yeah, like we have a lot more in common, being cheeky about it, but he's not trying to reveal too much. But I'm sure he's not going to tell Logain. He's probably just going to try and find out about his circumstances. The more I know about you and what you went through, maybe the more it can properly equip me, because this isn't going away. It's like if I give too much into my emotions and let my anger get the best of me, like he did with Yan, like the channeling started. So the power's all there. It's just bubbling beneath the surface, just ready to bust out. And he's just trying to clamp it down as much as possible. But since I brought up Moraine just now, we'll shift over to her side of things with her, Lan, and was it Adelaide and Varen and Thomas in the aftermath of the Fades attacking last step. Her plan was to kind of go to the tower despite her being banned. It's like, what would kind of... I guess maybe that was BS that Varen had kind of said, like, oh, we're going to go to the tower, knowing that she was never really going to go there. I guess that was all part of Moraine. Maybe she knew exactly what Moraine wanted and needed in this moment when it was concerning Lan, maybe. But, I mean, because we especially got their backstory and, their history of, how they met under the most complicated of circumstances. Oh, I thought he was a dark friend. It's like, well, I thought she was an assassin sent to, like, murder me. So he threw an Aes Sedai in the pond, and it's like, oh, he's like, yes, but you should never, like, try and separate a man from his sword. And you could tell, like, Adelaide shouldn't have pushed that topic as much as she did, but she's also pushing it for her point, because she was like, oh yeah, like any old warder can protect you from, like, a Trolloc. But the right one can protect you from yourself. Kind of implying, like, right, Moraine's kind of her own worst enemy right now, and it's just like you need someone by your side. But what she's doing is, it's a thing of, I think she's doing what she believes is best in the grand scheme of things. Because yes, she has a grander mission. It is related to the dragon. It is related to the last battle. It's about fighting, like, the ultimate battle of good versus evil, and that's more important than anything else. But I think it is in her own way. She does care about Lan, and it's like, despite their bond being gone. And it's kind of a whole point that Thomas was making last episode, or I think him and Varen were making the point of, listen, that bond might be gone, but it's not the only way you can communicate. You have to listen. And it is a thing of Lan kind of sees through, like, how how short she is with him, how easily like she kind of tries to cut him down with her words. But it is that thing of I'm being an asshole because I'm trying to protect you, despite it. Like because he says like, right, you can't. An Aes Sedai can't lie, so you never saw us as equals. And she's like, no, we never were equals. It's like, well, Aes Sedai can't lie, but they sure as hell can like find loopholes around stuff. So it could easily have been like, right, I've never seen us as equals because there could easily be more to it where she's just like, I just had to stop there. We're like, no, I never did see us as equals. I saw us as so much more. I mean, maybe it is simply true that she never did see it. Maybe I'm like giving that like too much credit of like, oh, that was, I do still believe she was trying to like, because he sees through it too. He's like, right, I know what you're doing. You're trying to push me away so you can go this alone. But she's like, right, Rand is the one I'm supposed to be towards. Like helping him fulfill his destiny is my destiny. My loyalty is to him and him alone right now because that is my mission. That is my grand purpose. Because now she ends up finally telling him everything that went down last season, like in the season finale. Ishmael's release. It's like, right, ended up not dealing with things the way we thought. We ended up helping release one of the Dark One's strongest lieutenants. He's from a very specific group known as the Forsaken. They are like 3,000 years old, and they make Aes Sedai look like what Aes Sedai can do looks like child's play in comparison to them. Like what he was able to do, cutting her off from the source, would take Aes Sedai to do, as we've seen it, for them to cut someone off from the source. I wonder what pushed her to do that even more so was because she probably found out, like, right, so Varen knows about Rand being alive, but Varen was like, okay, I was testing you. I was curious to see how far you would go for Rand's sake. And it's like, probably like she has to expedite things a lot faster now that she knows that Varen knows. So it's like, well, because, like I said, I think that was all part of Varen's play of like, right, I know what you're trying to do. You're probably trying to get away from land. You have your mission. It's like, right, I want to make like that bond, but not bond, but kind of that sacred vow thing of like, once you kind of make it, you can't, basically, I want you to promise your silence, but even she's like, I can't. A time may come where I have to like, break that, so I'm not going to make that promise to you now. All you can do is trust me, just like I have to trust you, but Moiraine doesn't know who to trust under these circumstances, and I guess it's like, right, with someone like Varen knowing, it's only a matter of time before anyone else finds out about Rand, so I have to act upon this now. I have to track him down, especially with all of this happening. So she ended up calling Alana and the others and having them drag Lan back to the White Tower. And it's like, I will force her to like force you into a bond if I have to kind of, but it was enough that like she said what she said to kind of, like I said, cut him short so that he has no recourse but to kind of fall in line and just do what she said, because it's like, right, I don't need you. This is my path to walk alone. We never walked the same path. You never saw the forest for the trees because I never let you see what was kind of there. You thought you were part of this world in the same regard, because he thought, like, right, everything we've been through, we walked through it together, we sacrificed together. It's like, no, we were never on the same equal footing during this. I saw things in a way that you've never seen. I never allowed you to see things in a certain way. It's like, because I think even back then, Lan probably, once again, because they had their way of communicating through the bond, he thought he knew everything. But even back then, Moiraine was keeping a lot from him, and even more so is being kept because she can't hide anything from him with the bond. Now she can keep a lot to herself. We do see that Lan pulled a letter from her bag. I can only assume that's that the poem or whatever she got. That was the one that was written in blood. That message or riddle or whatever. I think that's that. I don't think she probably needs it anymore because she probably has it memorized from and she might even have the answer for it. We saw her look at it and had a terrified look in her face, but we don't know the context of it. So now that Lan has that, and he'll probably eventually try and track her down, despite her trying to go on her own. He might be the. It's going to be interesting, too, because him being back in the White Tower with Nynaeve is going to be really, really interesting. And the question then becomes, is he going to let her and Egwene know that Rand is still alive? That's going to be, like, he has to keep that top secret because he can't let the others, like anyone else at the tower, know. Now, Nynaeve's situation with Liandrin, I don't know if that would compromise her and telling would she end up telling Leandra? Because it's like, would she put what she's going through right now? She might, because I like I said, I think that's what Nynaeve's kind of worried about. Not just the power and everything, but she's worried about losing herself in all of this, because she sees who the Aes Sedai are, and it's just kind of like there's a callousness with them that it's like she doesn't want to lose kind of her heart in all of this. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. Like I said, especially because Nynaeve and Lan kind of have a connection, and with their bond severed, she might try and form and especially if she ends up becoming one. Her becoming accepted, I don't know if that would put her in a position, because she's not like a full Aes Sedai. She's accepted, and she can eventually rise up to become one. So I think even as an accepted, I don't think you'd be able to like form a bond with Lan, even though there is like a bond, but not in the Aes Sedai water type of bond yet. So it does open that pathway up, which could complicate things later on. But like they were leaning into like there being a Lan and her thing last season, so we'll see if they kind of build upon that or not. But shifting that over to the White Tower and everything, we do find out that Nynaeve does find out about Leandrin's secret, because I'd completely forgotten about this until luckily we have the recap. But Moraine knows about Leandrin's secret. It's like, oh yeah, I know about that guy. You might not want to test me, or I'm gonna let your fellow Red Aes Sedai's sisters know the truth about him. So, because especially when you tie it in with the fact that Leandrin talked about, like, right, with this power, you will be able to make yourself younger. Like, you will be able to like maintain and be able to live for a very long time. I thought this was an ex-lover of hers. It's not. It's her son, the man that she was seeing. And I'm curious, because Moraine knows that the guy's existing, but does she know the connection between Leandrin and him? And it turns out that's her son, because she's able to slow down her age, so she's not. So who knows, and the fact that she's kept that a secret, because that makes me wonder, like, is that probably, and maybe Moraine does know that connection, because it's not just because I'm assuming Aes Sedai aren't supposed to have any relationships outside of like you can have relationships with warders, but it can't be like anything else. So like that's why I'm wondering, like, oh, does Moraine think, oh, that's a old lover, or does she know that that's Leandrin's son? Because they're probably supposed to like couldn't cut themselves off from the rest of the world in that capacity. And I mean, I was wondering, like, now it's like, can you even be mothers as a Aes Sedai? Like, are you supposed to just kind of nip that in the bud? I mean, that might have been pre her becoming an Aes Sedai, or maybe it was after she became an Aes Sedai. We have no idea, like that, because her son is very old, so it could be there's a lot of decades that could have like happened in, and so and so forth, considering how old he is. But Nynaeve has found out about that secret. It's actually really sad, because you actually get to see Leandrin in a way you never get to see her, because she's always just kind of like that, got that manipulative energy about her, and she's just kind of like, you legitimately don't like her, because you're like, she's kind of a dick. But then you see this softer side of her in this moment, and then especially because Nynaeve points out, like, oh, that, like, you're trying to ease his pain. The way his hand is spasming, it's not just throughout his body, it's in his heart, and that medicine isn't going to help. The moment you leave, that's going to alleviate some of the pain, but it's already in his heart, so the moment you leave, it comes back. And she's like, I'm so sorry, my boy. I didn't realize I was leaving you in so much pain. If only I'd known, because she can't heal him, and all she can do is try to make him better. But it's like, right, what she's trying to give him, like, there probably is no means of easing his pain. So who knows how often she's able to visit him, but she thought, like, oh, at least in between time, I'm able to take away some of your pain. But I'm like, the moment I leave, I'm thinking, like, okay, at least he's resting easy, he's pain free, because he's such a secret, there's probably no one else she can leave in him in her care without letting anyone know, right? So she's his sole caretaker, I think. But there was this moment where she's like kind of like crying about, like, leaving him in such pain, and his hand like goes over to hers, like, it's okay, like almost like a it's okay mom type of situation. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out. But how that ties in with Egwene and her new pal Elaine, who is the daughter heir. So Is this the first time we've really kind of known someone of royalty on their path to becoming an Aes Sedai? That's going to be interesting, considering like how do you balance those two? I mean, had that been something they've ever talked about? Someone of royal blood, like being in a situation of becoming an Aes Sedai. How do you? Or maybe it's just like it's because she's spent time in the tower before. She's like, yeah, she spent summers here and stuff. So is it just for the purposes of training? But I mean, it seems like the way they're talking about it's like, no, she has the potential to become an Aes Sedai. So I'm like, I guess you have that freedom of once you become an Aes Sedai. I thought the point was that when you become one, you have to like cut all ties. But maybe as an Aes Sedai, like they want her in that position. I don't. How do you balance that as like a royal? I don't know. Like I said, maybe they brought that up last season, but I don't really remember that being a conversation. Maybe that's something we're really going to dive into. It's interesting too because she introduced herself to Egwene of like, oh yeah, like do you ever think about people who are kind of destined to meet? Which feels very foreshadowing because there is a picture, like a kind of like a poster for the show that has Elaine and Egwene. So it seems like okay, so that's going to be probably like a dynamic that is probably going to be a prominent thing this season, especially with where things stand between Nynaeve and Egwene. We'll get to that in a second, but I'm assuming I can only feel like because this series, I know I talked about this in season 1 of like I've never read the books, but I do know it is a very, very long running franchise of books. So maybe that feels very foreshadowing of like, right, these two have a bond and it felt very foreshadowing of like, hey, if you know the books, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you know what this meeting means, between these two characters. But like I said, how this equates to where things stand with Nynaeve because Nynaeve overheard Egwene talking to Elaine, and because I brought it up last episode, you can tell with Egwene's like the look on her face the moment Alana was like, yes, Egwene's like stronger than most, but you are like 10 times stronger than her. Like you could tell it bothered her because Egwene is trying to like really go after this, but Nynaeve doesn't want to embrace it. It's like she doesn't have to try, and that's what kind of hurts Egwene so much. It's like you don't have to try, and yet you are slowly but surely moving way ahead of me, and it just feels like I'm being left behind in so many regards. And it's like, right, you're my best friend and you came here for my sake to protect me whether or not I wanted you to or not. And it's just like, because she's so resistant to everything here, but Egwene, like, I want to give myself over to this, but you don't. And yet it's like she even says like, right, the only time any of the Aes Sedai even pay me any attention, even say a word to me, is simply because of my connection to Nynaeve. It's like, even though I'm here for my reasons and you say I'm strong or whatever, but at the end of the day, you're only care about me because I'm connected to Nynaeve. If I wasn't, I'd be different. I mean, now it's almost like parallel with Elaine because it's like, oh, the only reason why you pay attention to me now is because I'm standing by Elaine and she's the daughter heir and so she's important. But Nynaeve heard that, and you could tell that whole situation is pushing that entire group further and further apart. At least you thought, like, well, Nynaeve and Elaine, and Egwene are here together, but it's like, nah, now they're kind of falling apart. I think, granted, it was already set in motion by Liandrin trying to get Nynaeve to undergo those trials, the arcs, or the eggs, or whatever they're called. But I think hearing everything with Egwene kind of probably like pushed her further to be like, yes. Liandrin told her, like, when they ask you, are you ready, just accept it, because as a novice, Liandrin can't train her, but the moment she becomes an accepted, then it's no holds barred, like, cool, I get to take over her training. So they're putting her through it, so I'm assuming the next episode is going to be her going through that. But like I said, I think that's just going to push her and Egwene, like, further apart, but that's going to put Egwene and Elaine closer together, so we'll have to wait and see on that front. But like I said, continuing in the tower, there is the whole Alana of it all, because she tried to talk to was it Shiram? Is that her name? About the whole situation of, well, do you know why? It's like, I don't agree with this whole like Nynaeve and Liandrin of it all, because you are the one in charge of all the novices, so is this really for the best? It's like, yes, we would need Nynaeve for the future battle, but it's like, do you realize why there are so many powerful, not just women, but also men, like a Logain and so on and so forth, being put out there in the world? It's because the pattern needs more stronger people out there for the fight against the Dark One, because that the last battle is upon us at some soon enough. It's not that far off in the distance. That is so interesting, though. Like, Alana, well, the way her wards were talking to her, they were like, warders were talking to her, it's like, or do you want to stay in the tower? But she's like, no, Moraine needs me. It's like, well, the whole point was like to drag Lan back to the tower, but maybe the point was we're going to drag Lan back to the tower, but then Alana's going to leave afterwards. I don't know. Because if the way she made it sound like almost like you're going to leave and you're not going to be here for a while. So it's like, are you worried about leaving the whole Nynaeve situation? But it's like, I can't do much about it. Like, Moraine needs me more. So that's where I'm needed. So there's no point. This whole Nynaeve and Leandrin thing is going to have to play out the way it plays out. So kind of staying on that point. Sadly, Nynaeve did walk away before she finished hearing that conversation with Elaine and Egwene. But Elaine called her out being like, I see jealousy doesn't look good on. And she's like, I'm not jealous. It's like, trust me, as a daughter heir, I've seen that look of jealousy on enough people that I recognize it. So, and I think Egwene was kind of like, it's frustrating when someone who is like your best friend, still you feel like you're so small in comparison of like, once again, this is something like, yes, I have a talent, like I have some talent for it, but you're even more talented and you don't want it. That is enough to kind of irk your nerves a little bit, where it's like, maybe this is something I could shine at, but it's like, right, my star, my light seems to shine so less bright when you're around. Like it's an insecurity that Egwene has, and it's just you've always been like my friend. You've always been there for me. You've always kind of like looked after all of us, but now it's like we're all kind of growing in our own separate ways, and that has kind of led us all down different paths that will connect in the end, I'm sure, but still, it doesn't make that journey along the way any less bumpy. We have Matt staying in the tower situation. I was expecting when Nynaeve was following Leandrin, I'm like, well, Leandrin's going to be careful about that. But I'm like, well, she still got followed by Nynaeve to her son. But I'm like, I thought she was going to lead Nynaeve to Matt and she was going to find out about that. But I guess Leandrin's like extra careful about that. I guess she wasn't expecting anyone to actually follow her to, but still, you would assume out of anything she'd be even more careful. Because I don't know, I doubt Leandrin's the only one that knows Matt's there. I mean, maybe. You would think, like, if that was the case, like, she would have, like, a guard posted or something like that. So she doesn't even want maybe some people in the tower know, but you would assume she doesn't even want her sisters to know, considering, like, you would think you'd have somebody guarding that door if that was the case. Maybe those are all special prisoners. Like I said, maybe higher ups in the tower know, but either way, Matt ends up, So last episode, I was curious, like, okay, is he trying to get to the dagger or something? Or is he just trying to escape? He's just trying to escape. He's trying to go full Shawshank. But problem is, the wall he's trying to carve out, leads to another cell. So it's like, cool. But funny enough, Min is in that cell. And it's like, oh, that is interesting, considering, like, right, her run-in with Rand last season. And it's like, yeah, funny enough, you would run into each other now. Well, not even funny, and just kind of even sad and tragic, considering she can see the future, and she's like, oh, do you want to know what I see with you? He's like, no, I know a shit storm is coming my way, and I'd rather not know it. Just kind of like, because like, what's the point of knowing the future? You're just going to stress yourself out about knowing, like, oh, what's going to happen? And it's like, no matter how much you try and fight it, it's going to happen regardless. But what's going to be interesting, though, is she ended up seeing Matt, and despite them, like, talking and kind of hitting it off, it turns out, she sees that he's going to stab Rand, which it seemed like he had the dagger in his hand. So eventually he will get the dagger back, and the Dark One's going to manipulate him to kill. Because they seem like they want Rand. Because it's like, if we can't bend Rand to our purposes, if he can be used against us, we might as well remove him from the board. So it seems like things might not go in a way of like, hey, we can use him. It's like, because like the Aes Sedai are so afraid that, hey, Rand could be used against him to break this world even further, because the previous dragon ended up breaking this world, so they're afraid the same thing's going to happen again. But it's like, no, he can help mend this world, mend what's still broken. Because I think it's like, right, as the Aes Sedai, they're doing everything to kind of do like some quick patchwork to try and keep everything holding steady until they can fix it all. But it's like, right, only the dragon can in that regard, I guess. So, like, fully healed the world. If it's even, possible. But like you kind of equate that with Nynaeve thing of like, oh yeah, she wants to heal, but that power she has can be so destructive. So it's like there's a lot of parallels amongst the group of our heroes. Their circumstances being what they are and shifting and changing. I'm curious to see what that means for men going forward, because she's like, yeah, I'll stop by and check out my schedule, her and Matt hanging out again. But then it's like, after seeing that vision, it's like, especially because she doesn't know that Matt and Rand have a connection, but just having seen that vision, it's like, is she going to tell the Aes Sedai about that, and will that end up pushing Matt even closer to that future? I don't know. He doesn't want to know about the future, so she probably doesn't even know like it's significant telling him about it, because it's like, you probably want to know that you're going to end up stabbing one of your closest friends and potentially killing him. But we'll see how that all plays out, because that might be more in correlation with maybe Rand trying to stop himself from going mad and maybe ask Matt to do that. Maybe not. That's just a possibility. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see what those interactions are going to be like going forward, because she's going to be probably like a little hesitant. I mean, that is the sad thing of like anyone you meet, you're always going to be able to see their future, which is like, kind of stuck with that sight that, it's probably way more of a blessing. I mean, way more of a curse than it is a blessing, Finally, on the other side of the episode, we have the parent of it all, where him and the group are still trying to find Fane, and they end up coming across a village where it's completely empty, and as they go in, Perrin thinks, he's like, oh, we're sorry for interrupt, but then he sees he's lost in a vision, and he sees like it looked like it was Ishmael was there. I think that was him. And I was like, it looked like they were kidnapping children. So like, we saw the little girl from last episode. So I was like, are they trying to, it's kind of like corrupting the next generation to make them like dark friends, or just, I don't know what that's all about. Because it seemed like they were taking children and killing the adults, but like, obviously the food is rotten. There's like flies and bugs everywhere, because it's like, it was a very long time ago that this all happened. And even the tracker is like, right, you need to be careful about that. Kind of, focus kind of helps you distinguish between reality and that you don't get lost in the vision. And he's like, oh, whatever you're doing to me, like, stop it. I want no part of it. He's like, that's not how it works. It's like, I think that's his way of saying, like, I have no control over that. That's your circumstances. Maybe being around each other is triggering that more in Perrin, or maybe it's just, right, that's already kind of unlocked inside of you. And until you learn to control it, it's just going to kick you into a vision until you rein yourself in. But they also found a fade. It's like, right, who did this to it? Like, why would, as a dark friend, why would Farron, they were saying like, not Farron, Fane, it's like, why would he do that? They were like, oh, was Pagadin Fane the one who did this? It's like, well, why would he do that as a dark friend? So that's a mystery of like, okay, what's that about? They stay at a village, and they're suddenly attacked. Kind of get shut down. That like they were specifically taking. It seemed like they were dragging some men away. So it seems like they're trying to turn men into warriors, and because they collected the entire village, it seemed like. But it seems like they've taken an interest specifically in the men. It seemed like that's who they were dragging away, and kind of leaving maybe the women. I don't know, because they were also taking women too. So maybe they were all getting sent to different places of like, you're going to work for the Dark One's army and you're going to do different. I don't fully know what to interpret that, but we do see someone showing up, like, and by her side is Ishmael. And I was like, I don't think that's supposed to be I don't know who she is, but I don't know if Ishmael is like playing the role of like, oh, I'm here pretending to be her advisor and I'm telling this person to do this, but in that, I don't know if that's like a Dark One thing of like, right, all of that's Dark One related, or whether that's Ishmael like being Dark One related, like slithering and snaking his way to some kingdom and kind of being the kind of, if we make an Aladdin comparison, if he's meant to be kind of like the Jafar, if he's playing like a Jafar role in this capacity of manipulating this person from the shadows, because he definitely took an interest in Perrin, because I'm sure he's interested in everyone connected to Rand, because all of that, like if Rand gets pushed to kill all of them, it's like, well, because Perrin's got special abilities and you're significant and like you could be a pawn I play and all this, maybe entirely related to Rand, because you need him to finally like go over the edge by killing everyone he cares about. So maybe that's where this is all leading to. I have no idea, but he definitely saw Perrin and saw like, oh, you're interesting. Like, I don't know if that's just, he has to know everything about, well, yeah, because he was inside of Rand's head, so he knows about how significant they're all to him. So, like I said, just don't know what role and capacity he's viewing Perrin through. But either way, we'll ultimately have to wait to see where the next episode takes us. Obviously, there's one more episode out. I'm obviously getting to these a little late, so sorry about that. But either way, I'm excited to see where episode 3 ends up taking us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.